Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. After months and months of severe pain, the Indian auto industry is beginning to show signs of a recovery. In fact, passenger car sales have gone up consistently now for the last 3 months. But if you look at the data closely, sales are being driven by new product launches. And one such launch is the Hyundai i20. Jamshed believes it could be the fire starter in its segment. Take a look.
The premium hatchback segment wasn't something that always made sense in the Indian context. I mean, you'd imagine that people would move from buying entry-level hatchbacks and they would move on to buying sedans. It's the obvious move, right? Well, guess what? This premium hatchback segment over the past couple of years has been driving 37% of the overall hatchback sales, and that's even more than the entry-level hatchback segment. And now, things are going to get even more premium in this premium segment with this, the new Hyundai i20 Elite. Now, is this the best looking hatchback in India? I don't know. Although one thing's certain, Hyundai have outdone themselves once again with their design. The new i20 is a stunner. And every bit of it is brand new. On the fascia, the first thing that catches your eye is a large hexagonal grille and the new elongated headlamp clusters, which interestingly no longer sport the daytime running lights. The fluidic curves from the outgoing i20 have been replaced by sharper lines and edgy contours. This design seems more Storm's Edge than Fluidic 2.0. My favorite part about the design has to be around here at the back. You get this beautiful wraparound 3-step taillight cluster, very reminiscent of the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. You get a blacked out C-pillar, which gives it the impression of it being a floating roof line. Again, very European, not the first time that we've seen it. These huge wheel wells, well, they house 16-inch wheels, which in the Indian context is quite huge, but on the European spec model, it gets 18-inch wheels, and I think this car on those 18-inch wheels would just look beautiful. And not just that, the whole design per se has moved quite away from the usual Fluidic 2.0 design that we've been seeing on, say, the Verna and the Elantra. This, on the other hand, is far more subdued and held back, again, which suggests that this car has been designed with the European market in mind. If there was any doubt about the i20's exterior styling being the best amongst hatchbacks in India, well, there's certainly no denying that it has what we think the most upmarket, great looking and solid interiors. In fact, some elements look like they belong to a certain German luxury marquee. The dual-tone wraparound dashboard is built with great materials, although a shade of grey instead of the beige would have suited our tastes better. Each member is intuitively positioned and made to feel premium. The new i20, like the older i20, as expected, is loaded with features like push start, automatic headlights, all sorts of infotainment connectivity, a GB of music storage, automatic climate control with cluster ionizer, rear parking camera, and plenty of storage spaces. And speaking of space, with the new i20, the wheelbase has increased by as much as 45 mm and it's become a little wider as well. So there's enough knee room at the back, there's enough shoulder room for 3 people to seat in, relative comfort. You also get these rear AC vents at the back, which I think is a good thing. Well, I think enough sitting around now. Let's get onto the road and see how she drives. Though this is an all-new car, the engines haven't changed, so you still have the 1.2-litre petrol Kappa 2 engine and the 1.4-litre U2 diesel engine. The same engines as on the outgoing model. Now, this car that I'm driving has the 1.4-litre U2 diesel engine. Now, the U2 was our engine of the year last year, but that was a 3-cylinder diesel engine on the Grand i10. This, however, is a 4-cylinder rendition of the same engine. And along with this very, very slick 6-speed manual gearbox, I think this powertrain is just as impressive. However, while the mid-range is quite potent, this car struggles just a little bit at launch or at inclines because of the lack of a little bit of low-end grunt. And then there's a lull at the top end as well, so the meat of the torque and the power lies in between. While understandably the diesel gets a 6-speed manual transmission for better fuel efficiency, the petrol Kappa engine gets a 5-speed manual. Thanks to that and a flatter torque curve, the petrol is definitely a bit easier to drive in stop-and-go traffic. Surprisingly, Hyundai haven't lent the new i20 the option of an automatic, but we do expect it in the future.
Now, both these engines are quite efficient at what they do, and I think they're probably ideal for the Indian car market, but they're not really fun to drive. And I think that is my biggest and probably the only area of concern with the new i20. I just wish it had more fun to drive engines, to match its world rallying credentials. Maybe with the next generation, these engines will be old enough for Hyundai to bring in newer engines, and maybe then we might have a fun to drive variant as well. Now, Hyundai cars are often under scrutiny when it comes to the dynamics of their cars, but I think with the new i20, Hyundai have come a long, long way. Now, as I push the car through this corner, you'll see that it's quite firmly planted. And I think that's a good sign that Hyundai are finally getting their suspension set up absolutely spot on when it comes to the balance between ride quality and handling.
The raw nerve is still the steering feel, which feels a bit light off center, especially in the petrol thanks to the lighter engine up front. But if your daily commutes comprise of city traffic, you won't be complaining. In fact, you'll welcome this excessive servo assistance.
Now you'd imagine that with the increased wheelbase, the ride quality of the i20, which was already quite good, would have become even better. And it has. The ride quality for most parts is quite plush, apart from the big potholes where it tends to thud a bit. Either that or my tires are overinflated, but I think it's the earlier. On the safety front, as part of this premiumness, the older i20 had the option of 6 airbags, which in this segment was, well, quite unheard of. The bad news is that, however, no longer exists. Now you only get 2 airbags. But the good news is that you get the added benefit of features like the smart brake pedal, which under very heavy braking in an emergency situation will completely negate the accelerator, which I think is quite a smart feature.
So while the new i20 is no hot hatch, though it certainly looks the part, it is a great looking, smooth and effortless hatchback with features and quality that'll hold up the competition to shame. As for me, I'm just gonna wait for that hot hatch that the i20 has the potential of being for the day when it does come.
The magnificence and the opulence of a place like the Umaid Bhawan Palace was always restricted to royalty. Well, now just about anybody can walk in and buy themselves a royal experience for the night. And much like that, automotive luxury too is now in reach of the common man. And the prime example is the new Hyundai i20 Elite. Now this premium hatchback segment comprises of the Swift, the Polo, the Punto Evo and of course the Jazz when it does make it to India. But out of all these cars right now, the i20 is the only all-new car. And it's not just that. They've also managed to get the pricing just about right. The new i20 manages to outperform the older outgoing model in just about every department, and yet they've managed to price it quite close to it. Whether this becomes a segment stalwart like the older i20 when it was launched, we'll wait and find out. But one thing is for sure, that luxury is now becoming increasingly affordable.